Hello, listener. This is Harris, one half of the podcast Who Needs It, the other half being my co-host Dalton. I'm just re-recording an intro, one, to sound better than the actual intro that we tried to make, and two, as a kind of content warning. We talk about some heavy stuff in this episode, so keep that in mind when proceeding. Perfect.
That was actually one of the best ones we've done.
I know, right? That went really well.
Sometimes I'm like, I get 7 through 4 lined up, but 3 is like 2 seconds off, and I'm like, how though? But yeah.
Yeah, that one went really well.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of something else that went really well, I finished Invincible.
You're always really bad. This is the Who Needs It podcast. You're Harris. I'm Dalton. All right. Now continue about Invincible.
We were going to circle back to it. I would have made it organic.
Yeah, I decided to make it unorganic, so. Yeah, so last week we had 2 homeworks. One was that you were going to read the rest of Invincible, or some of it. I don't know. Was it the second book? Is that what we agreed upon?
So when the last episode, I was almost exactly halfway of all of it. So I read a compendium and a half of 3 compendiums. And since then, I have finished all of it. I might have read like the last 10 chapters, like an hour before.
Wait, you finished the
but
entire series?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I thought that was what I was supposed to do.
I know,
just
but I
finish
was
the
just
rest
like,
of it.
that's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot and a half. I really fucking like Invincible.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say, how do you want to? Do you just want to give like your overall thoughts, and then we can talk about different story beats, or?
Yeah, overall, art fantastic. It starts off a little janky in the art department, kind of almost caricature-ish.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but they did change illustrators, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct word. They did change artists halfway through the series. So the first half, I think, was one guy, and then the second half was another guy. And then the first guy may have came back at the very end again. So there is an art switch, like, halfway through the series. So
Yeah. So I liked when it switched over to, what's his name, Ryan Olty.
Yep, I think that's his name. I was literally about to look it up because I wanted to double check.
Yes. I don't think the other guy is bad. I think his name is Walker. I don't think his art style is bad. I just prefer Ryan's style because it is very simplified, but you have all the necessary details. It's really focused on the fundamentals. There's almost no rendering involved in his style. And normally, I like a really rendered comic page where you have a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of, dynamics, maybe stippling or screen tones, like in stuff like Berserk or Vagabond. But this is like the opposite end of it, and it still really works for me visually. It gets all the information you need across. I would almost describe it as, for lack of a better term, like Akira Toriyama-esque. So Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, everything's very like straight line, blocky kind of look to it, but it has the necessary line work and details in specific things to get across what is happening. And I think the comparison to Toriyama's art style is also a good way to transition into the story of Invincible.
Yeah. One second before you leave the art thing, I just wanted to say that so Cory Walker co-created the book, and he did the art for number 1 through 7, which I think everyone says that the art through like the first 7 issues is pretty sketchy. I think that's what maybe you were talking about as well. And then Ryan Otley did issues number 8 through 126, and then Corey Walker did the last bit, so issues 127 through 132. So those were the differences, and I think, yeah, like you said, the first few issues, the art was very... It wasn't bad. It was just like, I don't think a lot of people like that style, but I just wanted to point that out. So, but yeah, go ahead and talk about the story.
Yeah, so when it comes to story, at first it comes across similar to, there's a lot of parallels you can draw to Superman, but I think there's more Dragon Ball Z in this than there is Superman. The Viltrumites are really similar to Saiyans because they go to another planet, they conquer it, or they destroy it. And they're kind of just bred to be warriors.
But they have
whereas I don't really get that from
monkey tails.
Yes, they took the hair from one spot and put it on another.
Exactly.
There's kind of a lot to talk about story-wise, or plot-wise at least. Characters, Battle Beast is the best. They did him dirty, but I don't know. I'm a Battle Beast fanboy.
I'll have to give you that comic that they did, like the one-off comic of Battle Beasts. So it doesn't really... it's just one comic, so it doesn't really explain much, but it shows at the very end, spoilers obviously for the Invincible comic book series, and to an extension maybe the TV show, because they might do some of the same things in the comic as the TV show. But I believe it is implied that Battle Beast dies because his daughter becomes the next Battle Beast. Because, like, once he dies, the curse gets transferred to his kid, and his daughter started, like, to feel, like, the rage. I don't know if you remember that.
Okay. That tracks. All right.
So it's he's never actually said he's dead, but I think that's what people can assume from the comics. So, but it's been a while since I read them, so if there's anything that I've getting wrong, let me know.
The only thing I think is I might have seen it wrong. I thought that they used like what is his name? The Viltrumite King at first. Trag?
Yeah.
I thought he turned him into like a pelt that he wears on him.
Right. I kind of remember that too. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like that Battle Beast is gone, but it's pretty metal that he turned it into part of his clothing. And then I was like, oh, that's like 2 heads you have to draw every single time you draw this guy.
Fair. Was there any other characters that you're like really liked? I know some people don't really like Oliver. That was like one character people weren't super stoked on.
Oliver is... I started off disliking him, and then he got more annoying in a way that I didn't... I feel like maybe he was intentionally annoying because he was young. Like, yes, he ages fast, but he was still young, and it kind of gave off the vibe that he was like learning as he goes. But like the argument between him and Mark, that like Oliver just straight up wants to just kill these people, versus Mark being like, no, we have to lock them up, we have to give them a due trial. And Oliver's like, yeah, but they're gonna get out and they're gonna do this again, and if that happens, now all that is on you.
Yeah, and Oliver's point, like, didn't Mark... I don't know if it was Mark or if it was Cecil who locked up Conquest, but then Conquest gets out again and then starts killing more people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they already had that scenario of like not executing these people, and then they're going around raising hell. So
exactly. because that the major part of that argument happens right after they spoilers kill Conquest.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I don't want to derail because I know you just read it all, so you probably have a lot of points you want to talk about. But how did you feel about Dinosaurus?
I feel I'm gonna get hate for this, but I feel like there are some characters that didn't need to exist.
Yeah, I don't think his arc was necessarily needed. It was just like a way for, I guess, Invincible to kind of stray away from Cecil and the, what is it, the Global Defense Agency or something, GDA. But yeah. I enjoy I enjoy that Dinosaurus, he's like the Incredible Hulk, but for apathy. So anytime he feels apathetic, he turns into like an eco-terrorist dinosaur. I really enjoy that. That's very funny. But overall, I like I like the character, but I don't think that arc was necessarily needed. And I feel like that's the only arc that I can really think of that was, it felt like filler. Everything else kind of seemed like it was kind of a one-track point. But
yeah, I think there were a lot of characters that were brought up, and let me know how you feel about this, but it was, to me, I thought it was going to go from meeting the I just said his name, the Viltrumite,
Tharg, the TH
Trag.
guy with a bunch of G's.
Trag?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So meeting Trag, I was like, oh, okay, this is the end of, like, once they get him, that's going to be the end of Invincible. But it kept going for a bit. And, like, you meet Mark's children, which the circumstances of his son happening,
I don't know if you remember, but I said there was 2 events in the Invincible comic that was I don't know why we needed this.
Yeah.
One of them was Adam Eve's abortion. I was like, what the fuck? And then because she got an abortion, she got fat, I guess, because she was depressed. Yep. And then 2 was was her name like Anessa?
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, when Anessa literally, and like, sorry for using such harsh language, literally rapes Invincible. Like,
yep.
And that's how he has a son who, is his name Marky?
I just read it and I cannot remember. He's not in enough of it.
If they named, like, that's just like a baffling scenario, because Anessa like comes to regret it, but it's still like, she still raped like a 20-year-old kid and had a kid with him, and then she named the kid after the guy she raped. It was insane.
Like, I know it was insane. I know it's done out of like she is trying to fuck with him in any way, shape, or form, you know, because they're beefing.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at it from the outside perspective of, was that necessary to put in your story? I don't know if I can say it was.
Yeah, because I guess her reasoning was that she's like a Viltrumite to the core, and she views Invincible as being one of the strongest Viltrumites, which I don't understand, because there's like 3 fights in this entire series where Mark doesn't die almost. Like, he loses every fight. But she wants to have a child with Invincible so that her offspring is going to be like the strongest Viltrumite possible. Was like her thought process before she came to Earth. There's a part in the comics where the Viltrumites like kind of do what Omni-Man did and just kind of live among humans, and then they all kind of like, man, humanity's kind of cool. So like eventually Anessa like has a husband and other kids, and she's like, dude, why are we trying to take over the galaxy and shit? But it was not, yeah. I feel like that's the lowest point of the whole comic, is that whole scenario too.
Yeah, and it's almost written in a way where it's it's written to be edgy rather than
For a story beat.
emotionally.
Yeah.
Emotionally like worth it. And later on in the comic, Mark is like, I'll adopt you. I'll take care of you. And that's cool, but it almost like came back around to being like, oh, don't forget that this child exists. So be
Yeah.
a good
And
dude,
it's like
if that makes any sense.
Adam Eve is like okay with, with raising the son of her husband who was, raped by a woman. And I think Anessa dies, right? That's why they adopt Marky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was definitely the lowest point. And I feel like we're only talking about the bad parts with like that, and then the Dinosaurus arc being bad. Was there what was some of the I don't know if we want to keep it on the Dragon Ball Z comparisons. I guess it's like anime in general, but like was there an arc that you liked the most or something you really liked?
I really enjoyed the space fight at the end of the second compendium when they first run into Trag. That part was, I was like, maybe they have a chance. No, they don't have a chance.
Yeah.
And just watching everyone get the shit beaten out of them.
Is that where they have like Battle Beast and like all the monsters? Like Invincible reads his dad's books and he goes out and gets like all the things that because and Nolan for whatever reason in his books wrote like all the times where like Viltrumites almost get fucked up, and then Mark eventually goes out and finds all this. That's why he finds like that weird alien guy on a motorcycle in space who has that gun that can kill anything, and there's like these monsters that he finds that he like releases as well. Is that space battle?
Yeah, that's that space battle.
Gotcha.
Like all leading up to it, where he's like talking to all these people, gathering all these forces just for them all to just pretty much get their ass whooped by one guy.
Yeah, and that's before Tharng whatever turns into Coney and has a child army.
Yeah,
his own child army.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I guess for context, there's in the comics, Omni-Man has a child with an insect alien, and that child grows super quickly. His name is Oliver. So Tharng finds out about this, so he goes to the planet and pretty much just has a harem. So he just gets a bunch of these insect aliens pregnant, and then has like an army of like hundreds of half Viltrumites that are his kids that he uses as like cannon fodder and fights like Invincible, and it's weird. It's definitely weird.
So one thing that also, I guess, when you brought up how she wanted Mark because he was one of the strongest, I agree with you. I was like, this guy's just taken L after L. Why is he considered one of the strongest? But maybe it was implied somewhere that being half human and half Viltrumite is better, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because in Dragon Ball Z, they kind of go about that, where they're like, Gohan's half human and half Saiyan, and that's what gives him the edge over most Saiyans. And then eventually they write him out to be like, he just wants to study, so he's done in the story. Goku's back, don't worry, he's here to stay.
Yeah. Or maybe Viltrumites are like Saiyans that if they get their ass kicked super, super hard, they come back stronger. Isn't that like a thing?
Yeah, that's how it works in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, so maybe that's what Mark's like, and Mark's like the champion because he's just constantly getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, I know we were just talking about the things we don't like, but overall, I would recommend this story if you're okay with... I mean, we've talked about some fucked up shit in this, so if you're okay with that stuff, then I would recommend this to you. Also, it's really gory.
Yeah.
If you're not into gore comics, I'd say it is gory, but it's not like disgusting in a way where I don't think people should see it. It's just kind of, with the art style that it has, I think it's not as bad as it sounds. But there are people getting their intestines ripped out.
Yeah, but it's definitely cartoonish violence, so it's not as bad. I would say, was there any other arcs or anything you want to talk about, or do you not want to spoil too much?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where it's really good, and I don't want to just continuously talk about it because I want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I'd say this is a recommendation. The art, I think, is good. Most of the writing is pretty decent. Characters, all right. There are some I like more than others.
Yeah.
Alan the Alien.
He's great.
Didn't think I would enjoy him as much as I did. He's fantastic. So, yeah, if you haven't read Invincible, I recommend.
Yeah. And I would just say that it's definitely like, it's written as a comic book. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like, it's not like a book. So like, sometimes the plots or the dialogue isn't super great because it's not supposed to be like, Game of Thrones. It's supposed to be like a fun comic book. So I feel like some people who read who are getting into comic books don't get that, like, it's not going to be like, a Nobel Prize for English or anything. It's just going to be like a fun story, and the plot is usually pretty good, but there's a lot of like, you kind of have to suspend some disbelief about like what the hell is actually happening. But I think that's just like any comic book. So
yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. And it was also written month to month. It wasn't written like, here's the whole story and now we're just releasing chapters. Even though you might be reading a compendium of it, each one was written, month to month or however long in between issues. So they might have had an overall plan of what was going to happen, but they did not have a specific, here's what's happening issue 3, here's what's happening issue 4.
Yeah. So
you do have to keep that in mind, because you do feel that, where you're like, nothing happened in this entire chapter. Cool.
Yeah.
And
the thing
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna like, a good thing to point out like with that is that the first issue came out January 22nd, 2003, and the last issue came out February of 2018. So, and they were releasing this probably like every month. That's usually pretty normal for comic books, with like some probably hiatuses of a couple months. But like, I mean, this is a story that was developed over 15 years, and like things have to change from time to time. So just thought I should point that out.
Yeah. But any positives you want to talk about?
I really like the comic. Like, I won't get into like specifics. I guess I should have asked about that before I gave a bunch of specifics, but I think overall it's really good. Fine. I think there's like definitely some arcs and some characters that are better than others. And then there's like one weird time jump thing that's a little bit weird, but overall I think the story is pretty good, and I like a lot of the characters. Yeah, and I also think it's like a good, I don't know if this is an idea that's shared by other people, but I think it's good when a comic or a story, the main character sometimes isn't your favorite character. Where it's like, you follow Mark, but you might like a lot of these other characters more, but you're following it from his perspective. And I think that happens a lot with me in this comic, where I like a lot of the other characters. Mark kind of does some dumb stuff, but you see him learn and progress as he goes on, and you tend to start to like him more as the story progresses, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I think I'm drawn to media like that, where the side characters are usually better than the main character. Take what's something I like. I like JoJo's. Usually the main JoJo isn't my favorite character. And that's usually an ensemble, like, group of 5, 4, 6 people. I don't know. My favorite characters in Naruto are not Naruto. If that makes sense.
I would say, is anyone's favorite character in Naruto actually Naruto? I would be very surprised.
Like, Yu Yu Hakusho, it's obvious I'm a Hiei stan.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're a Hiei stan. I wouldn't even have. I know that, and I didn't even have to.
Yeah, fire trucks are red. I'm a Hiei stan.
Harris is a Hiei stan. I'm more of a Kuwabara fan myself. I relate.
Yeah, I could see that.
Fair. Anyways, did you want to move on to the other homework thing we were looking at, or with the YouTube video that we watched?
Yeah, not still pretty, I guess, a pretty tough subject to talk about. The whole beef between Kendrick and Drake.
Yeah, so it was 3-hour video. What's the YouTube channel? I just got done watching it.
FD Signifier.
What's that?
FD Signifier.
Yeah, so it was a 3.5-hour video of pretty much just like detailing, I guess, some of the history of hip hop beefs, and then like the history between Drake and Kendrick. And I don't know if it's just kind of everyone agrees that Drake is kind of the bad guy in this, and he's kind of not a great person. And that's definitely how this video was framed. But I would probably have to agree as well. I don't know how you feel about the whole thing or how you want to talk about it.
It's kind of hard to talk about when, I mean, we have the hindsight for it now, and it's, I don't know, there's just so much that happened that video, like, that video is 3 hours, and it's really hard to say this section could have been cut out, this section could have cut out, because a lot of it is contextual. So, like, how rap beefs work, how the culture works. That was a very insightful part of that video, in when he talks about, I think he uses the term as like a fly in milk, where it's a black person who's raised like a white person.
Oh God.
This might be another one of his videos.
Okay, what a colorful analogy.
It's very interesting to it. He almost, this is gonna sound weird. When I watched that video, I almost got the feeling that he was portraying a kind of sympathetic side to Drake. He wasn't like, oh, this shit that he does is okay, because it's not okay, but he can kind of see how his past informs the kind of culture absorption that Drake does.
Yeah.
And how he's like, well, I'll do some rap, and then I'll do some R&B, and then I'll do some pop. And it's kind of like, yeah, he just kind of molded to whatever area he was in that, like, he was outwardly black, but he was raised, not that I know how Drake was raised, but it's given the portrayal that he was raised pretty much like a white person.
Yeah.
And that gives him like a strange, almost imposter.
I'm sorry.
What is your dog doing right now?
My cat tried to jump on my desk, but was under the desk and just head-butted the bottom of the desk. It was very funny. You had to be here. I'm sorry. Continue.
I don't even know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, like, he gave some context at the beginning of the video where he was saying, like, the rap, I don't know, scene, I don't know what you want to call it, was definitely more of the, gangster rap of the early 90s, 2000s, your, Tupacs, your Biggies, stuff like that, Snoop Dogg's, where, like, it's that's kind of what you needed, the image that you needed. You needed to have like that sort of like tough guy image, crime aspect to kind of be a popular rapper. And he even kind of talked about the fact that, a lot of those people who portrayed that didn't really fit into that element. Like he mentioned like Jay-Z was not really, he wasn't really involved in that kind of lifestyle, but he knew that's how you made money as a rapper, as if you portray that lifestyle. And that was like the most marketable at the time for individuals. And it's like Drake tried to do that kind of stuff. He kind of act hard to kind of get into that. And then eventually he kind of did his own like spin on it, where he kind of did like the more songs for like women and like soulful stuff. And he kind of talked about the reason that he was able to do that was like because of Kanye West, which was kind of a weird connection, where he's saying that like Kanye was like one of the first rappers to like forego that like gangster vibe and actually like be themselves a little bit more before he went crazy. But I thought that like giving that background context was really good.
Yeah, it was really helpful to give like paint a more three-dimensional portrayal of the actual rap industry, because he does. Yeah, you're right when he's like gangster sells. Because when have you ever heard like a funky rap song from the 90s? It just doesn't, like, that didn't get pushed.
Yeah, it just didn't sell as well. Because, I mean, you think about, like, Tupac, Biggie, Wu-Tang, stuff like that. It was all talking about, that lifestyle, kind of, like, criminal aspect. And even in, like, there's a Wu-Tang released an album in 2018, and they talked about, like, the same stuff. You know what I mean? About, like, how they used to sell rocks and all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys are in your 50s. And if anything, you may have done that in your 20s, but you haven't been in that lifestyle for 30 years, but they still feel like they needed to talk like that to sell like their records.
Yeah, they've been wealthy longer than they've been poor at this point.
Exactly. That's a really good way to put it. And like you said, who knows if they're actually wealthy? I know that Wu-Tang did a thing where they released music together as Wu-Tang under one label, and then each member of Wu-Tang had solo projects that they had to do on a different label. So I don't know if that actually made them make more money. I can't remember what the label was, but I think Method Man was like on Def Jam, and then like Wu-Tang was on like, I don't know, Universal or something. I don't know what what it was, but so I don't know if they actually made money, because that was a big point he brought up too, is that these independent artists who sign to these record deals, they don't really make a lot of money. And a lot of the times it's, people like Jay-Z or P. Diddy, which is, we don't really want to talk about him right now, but they made their own record labels and then kind of exploited talent themselves. And like Drake kind of did the same thing too with his record label.
Yeah, because another thing that I'll always come back to is the artist seems to get fucked all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the only thing that's like consistent among record labels is how they screw over over the rappers or artists in general.
And from other videos I've seen, that is what the record labels pushed, is like the gangster rap, but if you look deep enough, they're all owned by white guys.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like you're missing the forest through the trees. Like you're looking at a tree and you're like, well, all I see is the portrayal of these gangster rappers, so that's all that must be out there. But maybe it's the agenda of these, CEOs to be like, well, I want these, people to be seen as this, so I'm going to push this to get that in front of more people. So when people think about this group, all they think about is the gangster rap. They don't think about the soulful rap. They don't think about the lyrical miracle, or the who knows how many other types of raps are out there, because when I think about rap, most of it is just gangster rap.
Yeah. You don't talk about like the Most Defs or Twalib Khalib or anything like that. And I think it's mostly towards like, it's a weird thing because I think like in his, also we should preface this, we're both white, so we probably we don't know what the fuck's going on anyways with this whole thing.
You should never take anything we say seriously, but especially on this, take none of what we say as any sort of authorial or credible anything.
Yeah.
We're two honkies from Iowa.
But in his video, he kind of talked about the fact that for whatever reason that the gangster persona was more marketable towards the general public. And if you think about it, the general public in the United States is like white, just based off of demographics, right? What is it, like 60% of America is white? Is it more than that? I mean, 90% of Iowa is white. So, but for whatever reason, like that, the gangster rap was the more palatable thing to this. So these record labels were kind of pushing that because that's what was selling. So it turned a lot of people who maybe didn't want to do that kind of thing and forced them into that role. And then, then that kind of perpetuates it like within each other. Like you have to keep one-upping each other, and then, leads to some of these beefs. Hello, I'm
still here. Sorry, I didn't know how we were gonna.
No, that's why I feel like I was going rants,
keep talking about it,
and then it was
because
like,
I feel I don't. It's hard to try to not assign, but it's hard to give an accurate portrayal of how this industry could have happened. Was it that society wanted gangster rap, or was it because gangster rap was pushed, society wanted gangster rap?
Yeah. And I feel like some of it too was like some of these guys did live, like crappy upbringings that had to do with a lot of this, living in bad neighborhoods, having to like fit in to get in type of stuff. And then they rapped about it. But sometimes they didn't, they talked about it more in a favorable light. There's definitely some that they talk about in a negative light. Like, there's definitely like there's songs where, I'm trying to think of, like Mobb Deep has like a song where they talk about it, where like there's always like the thing where it's like, will you live to 21? Because I think in the 90s it was like if you're in these communities, like if you make it past 21, you're probably good, but usually a lot of them die before then because of some sort of violence in like these poorer communities.
Yeah, and I do think, I think most of these gangster rappers did go through struggles, but I think there have been engineered careers to look at what is the zeitgeist and say, we'll take a hand-plucked person and put them in that. And that's what's referred to as a industry plant. And that's what I get from Drake, is this is our chosen one. Let's put him in that so we can profit from it. And the worst part of it is that it succeeded.
Yeah.
Like, who knows how much money they made from this? And all that money could have gone to actual hardworking artists. That could have gone to someone, maybe 1/18 of that could have gone to some dude who was on the street corner busting his ass to rap in front of people, making change. That could have gone to him and just completely changed his life. So that's my biggest thing. Well, also the Drake is a fucking pedophile. Yeah. But
I think it's probably
second place. Second place, is the fucking taking money because you're a fake fucking phony, So
yeah, and he said that was like a big thing too, where he's from Toronto, which like whatever, it could be, bad neighborhoods in Toronto, but it's like he talks about how he like changed his accent where he doesn't sound like someone from Toronto. He like mixes a New York accent with a Southern accent. It's like you were born and raised in Toronto and raised by your white Jewish mother. It's like, how did you develop a New York / Tennessee accent? It doesn't make sense. He just kept trying to like fit in, but it like never really worked.
Yeah, it just gives an air of phoniness, whereas if someone takes pride in where they're from, you can get behind that without having to understand what they've been through.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and he talks about that in the video where it's like he all these other people from these areas, once they get famous and stuff, they go back and they raise up the people who were there that were in the same situation they were in. Like he talks about that was Kendrick and Compton, and then it's like for a while he was even like, I don't know if people even knew Drake was from Toronto because he never brought it up, and he sounded like he was from New York, and he had like, or he sounded like he was from like Memphis or something. So he never really like gave back. Like his main goal was to be famous. So it was weird.
And to circle back, Kendrick is also not without his, shady shit either. Yeah. He's into that weird religion thing.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. I don't know if that's like the similar thing as Black Israelites. I don't know if that's the same thing. Because he called him a hotep, I believe. I don't know. I don't know enough about that to say anything about that, but yeah, I don't know. And then there's some other stuff about like apparently Kendrick cheated on his wife or something, and he was like a sex addict, and it was all a weird thing. But I definitely feel like if you look into anyone with a fine-tooth comb, like no one is clean, and and that might range from like really bad things with Drake to being straight up just a pedophile, allegedly. Don't sue us. Or with Kendrick cheating on his wife, or so and so not paying their parking tickets or something. Like no one's clean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I don't know if you're good with overall, but Drake bad, Kendrick not as bad.
Maybe even good.
Even good, yeah. Honestly,
some would say.
I feel bad because I probably have listened to more of Drake than I have Kendrick, and that might just literally be from the radio. You know what I mean? I feel like I hear.
Do you remember this conversation we had?
Vaguely.
We were in college, but it had nothing to do with Drake. It was just about Kendrick, and I think we both, like, a Kendrick song came on the radio. We were driving somewhere, and we were both like, I know this guy is good, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Is like the conclusion we came to.
Yeah. I feel the same way about J.
I still feel that way.
Yeah. I don't like, yeah.
I still feel that way. I'm like, he's talented and what he's doing is good, but I don't know. The rap I like leans more like chopper rap, if that makes sense.
Is that like early 2000s stuff? Like Nelly and stuff?
No. It's closer to like Busta Rhymes.
Oh, okay. So here's a good question. Beginning Busta Rhymes or newer Busta Rhymes? And by newer, I mean like mid 2000s.
Ooh, I think they're both good, but I kind of prefer the earlier stuff.
Yeah. Because he is so... Busta Rhymes doesn't get enough credit because he literally has changed his, like, style so many times and has stayed like moderately relevant the whole time. Because at the very beginning, he was doing like a lot of like, and he was the voice actor for Reptar in the Rugrats movie. Because he was just like doing like dragon sounds and random noises in his raps. Like his most favorite song probably was like Woo-Ha, where he just goes Woo-Ha like a couple times in the song. He raps between it, but it's like he was more of like a lyricist. You know, he did a lot of stuff with Tribe Called Quest, and then eventually he moves into like a speed rapper where he, you know what I'm talking about by speed rapper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Busta Rhymes needs more credit. Also, he got really jacked for a while. It was crazy.
Yeah, he really did the Always Sunny bit for it.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. But, cool. Alright, well, that was two white people talking about rap for 20 minutes. You're welcome.
Yeah, sorry about that, people. Go check out that video.
Yeah. Also, go listen to Busta Rhymes and Gangstar.
Yeah, listen to some Busta Rhymes. He's really good.
Yeah, or Gangstar. Gangstar's really good, too. But one of them's dead. All the rappers I like are dead. I don't know what that says about me. Anyways.
So, speaking of saying things about you, you played...
Oh, I played is this where we're talking about Space Marine 2?
Yeah.
All right, that was a transition. We talked about Invincible, rap, and now we're talking about Space Marine 2. So, yeah, Space Marine 2 came out September 9th. It is a third-person shooter. It's made in the Warhammer universe. It's pretty much, this one is your a Space Marine named Titus, and you're pretty much fighting a Tyranid invasion, which are these giant bug creatures that like assimilate organic material. And there's, I don't want to spoil it, but there's also another faction that's in play. Ooh. But I mostly have just played the multiplayer, which is weird. The multiplayer is weird, and I think this is like a single player game that they put the multiplayer and the co-op on the back burner, which makes sense because you could always update the multiplayer to make it more robust. It's harder to do that with a single player. So as of right now, there's only 3 maps, and there's only 3 game modes. So,
oh my god!
But it is kind of like a class-based shooter. And the points where there's an assault class where you get assault weapon. You get to carry 2 extra weapons or 2 extra equipments. I think it's called tactical. There's like a sniper. There's a guy who holds like a shield, and he can't have like a primary weapon. He can only have a shield and a pistol. I think it's a bulwark. There's an assault class where they don't get any main weapon, but they get a sword and stuff, but they have a booster pack so they can go faster and maneuver faster, but they're only melee. So there's some cool stuff with that, and each class has like its own ability. The snipers can go invisible. There's like a heavy gunner that has like a shield. And you have Domination. It's not called Domination, but Call of Duty Domination. You have, I guess, Headquarters is what I would liken it to if you play that in Call of Duty. And then you have just like your normal team deathmatch. I like it. It's fun. It's pretty mindless. I haven't been able to play it as of late because I got a desktop computer in December of last year, and it's been kind of janky the whole time I got it, and I got it new. So I finally sent it in to get it fixed, and my laptop cannot run Space Marine 2. But yeah, it's really fun. I don't know how to describe it. The campaign is really, really hard. But I've not touched co-op yet. So co-op, I think you're literally just playing the like campaign missions, but you can have like your buddies there and stuff. One complaint
when you say it's difficult,
oh yeah, the campaign's super difficult. That's like,
what do you mean? Like you're just crossing a hallway and you get headshot, or
well, it's more of a. It's the Tyranids are like a swarm, so you have like 60 enemies jump on you. Like, I don't think that's like even an exaggeration. Like, there's a lot of enemies that you swarm out of nowhere. So it's just mostly that, and I'm not super good at the combat yet, so it's just more difficult. But yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I forgot.
Yeah, sorry for cutting you off.
Oh no,
on
you're
that.
good. But yeah, so
Overall, how would you rate your experience with the game? You seem to like it.
yeah, I like it, and there's like good customization too. There's like different armor colors for all the different Space Marine chapters. The one thing I remembered, it's weird because you start your game, like the campaign, you get to like a ship, and that's like the hub. So you switch between multiplayer, co-op, and campaign on the ship that is the campaign mission ship. So there's no like menu where you go to multiplayer. You have to go to the ship, walk up to a terminal, switch to multiplayer, and then to be able to change your armor is a different room on the ship. So you have to you can open the menu and you can go to that armory screen and it'll teleport you to that room, but you have to wait for this like computer to come down and then you can access the armor, so you can change the color. And I'm like, we're progressing, but backwards. Just give me a screen. Just let me hit back and go to armory and change it there.
That seems unnecessarily tedious.
I think they're just trying to make it immersive. Like, oh, you're an actual Space Marine on the ship. If you want to change your armor, you need to go here. But it's like I'll start multiplayer, like matchmaking, and then I'm like, oh, let me go change my armor. So I have to walk to the other side of the ship, wait for the computer to come down, hold X on it, pop it up, and it's like, that was 50 seconds, and you already found a match. And it's like, well, if I could have just opened the screen, I could have went right to where I wanted to go and changed it. But it's just a little thing. And if we could, I think they have like a slate for like when they're adding new stuff. So new maps, like I said, there's only 3, and I'm okay with it. I'm not a big, I don't need a lot of game modes. I don't know, for multiplayer. Like, I feel like when you have a lot of game modes, it just minimizes if there's not a lot of people playing it, it's hard to find games if there's a lot of different game types. So I think having just 3 game modes is fine with me. But definitely more maps, because I've probably played 12 hours of multiplayer. So I mean, I've probably played on each map 15 times. I don't know if that's math, but it feels like it's the same maps over and over, because it is. But
so when it comes to there's only 3 maps. Are they at least robust? And I would be okay if there's only 3 maps, but you can kind of destroy anything in the map. It's vast.
Yeah, so
there's multiple interaction points.
The best thing I could say,
maybe vehicles or something.
The best thing I could compare it to is Gears of War. It's third person, so it's the same feel, and the maps are very similar. So I don't know how to describe it. The maps feel relatively small, but it takes a long time to get from the place to place. And I don't know how to describe that well, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of intricacy in the maps, so it makes the maps feel small. Because it's there's one where it's it's a circular route that's almost like a mausoleum. So the spawns are, you're at the top of a stair, there's 2 sets of stairs going down that go into a side route, and then there's stuff in the middle. But there's not a lot of stuff going on, so the map feels small, but it takes a while to get places. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and it's just the maps are less interactive than Gears of War. Usually Gears of War have some button you can press to shut a door. I guess that's Gears of War 2. I don't know if the new ones, I can't remember. But yeah, it's pretty much just your standard map. There's not a lot happening. The maps don't change. There's no destruction of the map. It's just pretty much, a normal multiplayer Call of Duty Gears of War map. So, and usually you have your traditional 3 lanes, 1 in the middle, 2 on the sides, classic stuff like that.
Yeah, your 3-lane runways.
Yeah, so, but I don't think it's bad. If they add new maps, I think it'd definitely be better.
Does the game feel fun to play?
I think so.
Or does it feel kind of like a chore?
I think it's fun, and it's definitely, depending on what class you pick. The melee classes, I think I just suck at. So it just feels very floundering. Like everyone has like a dodge roll, so like if you're on them with a melee character, it's like they just dodge roll away.
Real question. What is the major controversy in this game? Because anytime something Warhammer happens, there's always, why did they put women in my Warhammer or something?
Yeah. Can you hear my dog?
Yeah, I can. Leave it in. Leave it in the podcast.
He's just such a happy little bunky boy. He just likes making noises and being happy. But for the controversy with this game, I don't think there is one. It's weird.
Weird.
I'm sorry, the dog is just losing his mind. But yeah, I think the big one is that it's almost like the opposite of controversy, where it's like it's Space Marines, so it's just dudes being dudes, and apparently some people don't like that there's not the more of the different options, like because there's no female Space Marines, so it's just dudes being dudes, and apparently that's can be a problem, and it's actually like, I don't know, it seems like some review sites have actually been like giving it lower ratings because of this, which seems weird, but yeah, there's not much of a controversy, I don't think. But yeah, so that's Space Marine 2. I'll say that's all I have about that. I don't know if you want to make this one shorter. I might have to leave because of the dog and everything. So
yeah, just a quick, I guess, what I'm gonna be reading.
Oh yeah,
I guess for the next one, and then we can do homework after that.
Yeah.
So I picked up the Bloodborne comics.
I did not know that was even a thing.
Yeah, there are, I believe, 5 of them. I got a box set that had the first 3 in it. I opened it just to look at the art because it looks good. And just found myself reading it, and I read the first comic. They're super short, and it was really good. One first key thing is the hunter, which is like the game character. For anyone that doesn't know, Bloodborne is a Dark Souls game, but it's set in like a dark fantasy medieval London. Not medieval, but around the time of, what's his name? Jack the Ripper. But there are demons and monsters, and there is nothing that looks pleasant in this world, to try to give you an example of the aesthetic. So it's a comic based in that. And the hunter, who is the main character, the way they portray dying in Dark Souls and trying again, it is just the hunter gets killed on like page 3, and then the "you died" text from Bloodborne pops up on a panel, and then they in this scenario pop back up, and they're kind of taken aback because they're like, I have seen this before. Why have I seen this before? And they're kind of coming to an understanding that they're stuck in a loop, but each loop they get a little bit further each time.
Dude, it's that Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah. Mission Impossible.
Yeah, that one. That was the one I was talking about for sure.
And that part is fine, but the things that they kind of go to, like, one line in the comic is the hunter talking to a child, and the child doesn't know what the hunter asks the child, "What's your opinion?" And the child asks, like, "What is an opinion?" And the way the hunter responds, I might be reading too much into it. However, that's what I normally do. And the way they wrote it, I was like, maybe it's not unintentional. The response the hunter has is something along the lines of, an opinion is an idea that you have that you convince yourself is a fact. So I feel like that idea of an opinion might come back into the story later on, which would be pretty interesting to see how they kind of fold that in on itself. And the other thing in this comic that stood out to me is the hunter comes in contact with like a nurse, and the nurse kind of asks, no, not really, kind of implies that the hunter is neither male or female. They kind of imply that they don't understand what the hunter's gender is, which is pretty interesting. You don't usually see a, for lack of a better term, non-gendered character as a protagonist of a comic very often. And to keep elaborating on that portion of it, they show 3 panels of the hunter's actual face following that statement. And the first panel looks very feminine. The next panel of the hunter's face looks very masculine. And then the third one is kind of androgynous. So I thought that was very clever for a tie-in comic to a video game.
Yeah, because like,
it's kind of it doesn't need to go this hard kind of thing.
Yeah, because like anyone who made this could have made any, could have made it a male character, a female character, or whatever. So it's like nice that they're not like saying that this isn't your character. It could still be your character because who knows what it is.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep reading that and give an update on that.
Yeah. But I don't know why, but I feel like that I've not really played much of the Dark Souls games. I played the second one and the third one, but I always felt like Bloodborne was like the one I would want to play the most. I don't know if it's because I never had a PlayStation, so it was always the one that I could never play because I never had the PlayStation to play it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I felt that same way. And then I bought a PlayStation off someone from work.
Oh, so have you played Bloodborne?
Yeah, I'm currently playing through it. I'm on the first like major boss, and I'm getting my head kicked in. But
fair.
Aesthetically, it looks fantastic. Old-timey, gross England is super cool, and it feels so smooth. It feels almost smoother than Elden Ring in certain aspects. Like movement and combat in it feels very elegant and very deliberate in a sense, whereas like Dark Souls kind of feels like here's another sword with the same animation. This kind of feels like here's your big hammer. It's gonna feel like a big hammer, and there's not many other weapons in the game so far that will feel like that. So it feels very deliberate and very everything that is different is going to feel different rather than here's another sword but now it's stronger.
Yeah.
If that
I always felt like Bloodborne looked like more fluid. Like the character looked more like lithe and like more like fluid and dodgy, and I don't know if that's just because the aesthetic. Like I always see people like dodge roll with like full plate armor and Dark Souls, and like it looks very slow, but like Bloodborne always seemed quicker and like more active.
Yes, it has a nice flow to all the animation, whereas sometimes in Dark Souls it just kind of feels choppy and like you're moving through sludge, if that kind of tracks.
Yeah.
The other game by FromSoft that I really, really enjoy the movement of is Sekiro.
Fair. I feel like, yeah, that's like the same thing of like the characters just seem more maneuverable, but
yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so
okay.
is that part of your homework, or you got another thing for homework?
I'll read that at my own leisure, and then for homework for you, I can't think of anything. Do you have anything? While I frantically search.
I mean, I have one that's more of a joking thing. I don't know what the website is. Arcdecked.com. I'm trying to build a commander deck for my commander Bellacore. Does he have like a different, like, is it Bellacore the something? The Dark Master.
Yes.
And I made a deck list, so I thought about linking the deck list in the YouTube video, and people could give me feedback on it. And you could you could do the same. Your homework is to tell me what cards I should change out. And a lot of it is like there's a lot of like not great cards, but I already have them, so I'm keeping them in just to like not spend a lot of money. And I don't think there's a card in there that's over $5 that of the ones that I need to get. So that's kind of my goal, is to keep it cheap and try to use as many cards as I already have. Because I literally only play Commander when you show up every like 3 months.
Yeah.
So, but who knows, if I get a Commander deck, I mean, I don't think there's no way that this deck is going to be actually like competitive, like with people who play it like at a competitive level. Because apparently that's like a thing where like you're like, oh, and if you can't get to your, infinite combo and Commander by turn 5, then it's like an awful deck. And I'm like, there's infinite combos? So
yeah.
So
I'm
hopefully,
not a
like,
fan
if
of,
I
like,
go
hyper
to like,
competitive,
if I go to like
card.
my comic book store or something and they have like Commander, hopefully I can like play this and like, I don't care if I like win. I just don't want to get like super rolled and at least get to do some of the bits, Like, I think there's one card that might be like fun if I could ever get it to work. I think it's like called Liliana's Contract. I can't remember what, but the gist of it is that if I have like I think it's like 5 demons of different names on the board at the same time, I just win.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's fun. Let's see. Yeah. When Liliana's Contract is an enchantment, enters the battlefield, you draw 4 cards and lose 4 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, which I mean, I guess would be the next turn.
Yeah.
If you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game.
Yeah. So
I don't
it gives
know.
everyone a turn of theirs to to get it off the field.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably won't ever work because people just like remove it or remove my demons, but it might be fun. So
yeah, that seems pretty fun. My recommendation. Hold on. Actually, I tried to get you to watch this video, and you were like, "This is too long of a video," so now I'm making it an obligation.
I just watched a 3.5-hour video this morning to talk about rap music.
So my recommendation is that you watch Roblox Oof from H-Bomber Guy.
Okay, I have watched like 45 minutes of that one, so I will. I'm okay with watching it because I meant to rewatch it because it's like the history of the sound effect, right?
Yeah, for the first 20 minutes, and then it turns into
like this weird guy who like
this insane human being who I'm convinced he's allergic to telling the truth.
Yeah,
I think he would spontaneously combust if he ever said a word of the truth.
Yeah, so I know that's a thing. So yeah, I'm cool watching it.
All right, perfect.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. If I remember, I'll like link those in the description. So.
All right, perfect.
Cool.
All right, that's our sign off.